Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And on behalf of the National Park Service, welcome to Fort Pulaski National Monument. My name is Wayne. I'm a park ranger here, and we're going to do a little demonstration for y'all on the rifled musket. But leading up to me actually firing, I like to spend a few minutes talking about the soldier. Because without the soldier, that is what the rifle does. That, and I'm actually a recently retired staff sergeant from the United States Army. Got a little bit of knowledge on what it means to be a soldier. Or I can at least make you believe I do anyway. And life for soldiers here at Fort Pulaski, whether they were Union or Confederate, was actually fairly easy. With the exception of those 2 days in April of 1862, which make us famous. No one was shooting at me while I was here. The rest of that time. 4 years of Civil War, Fort Pulaski saw 2 days, 30 hours to be exact. And that was it. The rest of the time was just building up, waiting, anticipating, and nothing ever came. The Confederate soldiers that were here, about 385 total, were all local to the Savannah area. So if they wanted to get off the island, they could do that. Go home for a couple days, visit mom, visit the loved one, get some real cooking, come on back, and they were good to go. Now, the Union soldiers that were garrisoned here, these guys weren't exactly welcome down on River Street for a beer like the soldiers are today. They were stuck on this island. And they had to come up with things to do so they didn't take turns seeing what happened when they jumped off these 30-foot high walls. They had a theater group, put on plays for each other, read Shakespeare, read the poems. If you look in casemate 43 and what would be 42, there's graffiti all over those walls. And some of that graffiti says, Headquarters Drum Corps. So we know they had musicians here. They had a band, put on concerts, played music. We are actually a little bit famous in sports history. Baseball to be exact. One of the earliest known photographs of baseball being played, and what we believe to be the first photograph of baseball being played during war, was taken right along this wall in front of us. They were the 48th New York Volunteers. They were all New York City boys. So we do know the New York Yankees played their first road game right here in Savannah. Now, soldiers have to be trained. You've got to train them to be soldiers, to march and salute. You've got to train them on their weapon, whether it's the rifle, a cannon, pencil, and paper, whatever their job happens to be. You've got to train them boys. But there's a small percentage of soldiers you had to pull aside, and you had to teach them boys how to take care of themselves, personal hygiene. And even in today's military, every unit has at least one guy like that. It's a shame, but it's a fact of life. And I've got some things here I'd like to talk about. I find them interesting, and hopefully I can make you find them interesting. First item up is the toothbrush. We all have one. We all supposedly use it every day. And during the Civil War, toothbrush in this form had only been around about 30 or 40 years. It was still kind of new. A lot of these guys still didn't have one. And the ones that did, you may have only found one for an entire family. So if you came from a big family, you probably started waking up a little bit earlier in the morning to get to that toothbrush first. And just like with anything else, the more money you had, more toothbrushes you probably had. Now, the Army mandated to be in the infantry and carry that rifle right there. You would have a minimum of 2 teeth in your mouth. Preferably one on top of the other somewhere near the front. And if you did not have any teeth in your mouth, they would either put you in the artillery or they would make you an officer. Another item you might find one of would be the comb. Again, bone and wood is what it would be made out of. Only find one of. I've got another comb here I like talking about a little bit more. This one is for the beard and the mustache. They would also use it to combat lice, because even with good personal hygiene, you got 1,000 guys crammed into a space, little bugs come knocking. But I like talking about this comb because it's made of rubber. Not something you think of when you think Civil War soldier. Think a little bit more modern, maybe as early as the World Wars. So I thought the same thing too. So I did what every good National Park Ranger does. I Googled it. And what I discovered was the year was 1845. And the man's name was Goodyear. He patented vulcanized rubber. We've all used the tire, seen the blimp. He patents vulcanized rubber. And one of the first things they discover they can use this for is to make some of these cheap and easy personal hygiene products. Combs being the most popular, cheapest and easiest to make. Now, soldiers today have to be clean shaven. But soldiers then, we know from our history books, from the movies, they could have the beards and the mustaches, the puffy sideburns, so long as it was trimmed and maintained. And that's what the regulations said. It had to be trimmed and maintained. You had to present a gentlemanly and professional appearance. So they would carry their shaving kits, your tin cup, your lathering soap, with your lathering brush. And if you chose not to do it yourself, because you were just lazy or didn't know how, you could visit the barber. Every unit had a barber, down to the company level. And that barber, 8 times out of 10, was a 13 or 14-year-old kid. Lied about his age, managed to enlist in the Army. 3,500 known cases of that in the Union Army. In the case of a militia unit, a guard unit, if you will, maybe it was a son or an orphan who followed him to war. They couldn't get rid of him. So instead of putting a rifle in his hand and putting that child in harm's way, they would give him a straight razor and put every other man in harm's way. My oldest is 14 and he's just learning to shave. Not with this. Now these items were not issued. The military did not issue them. They still do not issue them today. To get them, you either relied on loved ones to send you a care package in the mail, or you went to the civilian sutler. That was the shopkeeper that followed along behind the armies. If you're familiar with the military, you've got the PX, Navy Exchange, whatever branch it is. This was kind of the precursor to that, these civilian sutlers. And as long as they had it in stock and you had the money to buy it, you could replace it. But we had a saying when I was in the Army: there's only one thief. Everyone else is trying to get their stuff back. And this is stuff that everyone's trying to get back. Think about it a minute if you didn't get that. But I want to take care of it. I'm not just going to leave it out anywhere. I'm going to leave it with me. And I'm going to put it in my haversack. Every soldier was issued a haversack, Union and Confederate. This is where you kept that stuff. Soldiers today are issued what they call assault packs, book bags, in which you keep the things that every modern soldier needs. The cell phone charger, the iPad, the PlayStation games, what every good soldier carries around the war. And to our knowledge, they didn't have iPads back then. We're still researching that. But if they did, the haversack is where you would find it. Other things you would find in the haversack: the all-important coffee cup, for those of us who know the importance of it. Also could be used to scoop up some soup that they set on the side of the road as you keep going. The original iPad, that diary and journal, those History Channel, Military Channel specials you see on TV, came from books like this, came from those letters to and from home. Other things you'd find candles, matches for that nighttime reading and writing. If they were educated, books. If they were spiritual, religious, Bibles, hymn books, whatever books they wanted. Food for on the march. You'd have some bread, some hardtack, some fruit, something in there they could reach in and munch on. A little bit on the soldier, what they were carrying. Now the uniform I'm wearing is wool. They did wear wool year round, and with this nice beautiful breeze that I do not feel, you can imagine. Well, they wore wool for a reason. And what it is the weapons create sparks. And if those sparks happen to jump, whether from my rifle, from someone else's rifle, the wool actually smothers it. It won't allow it to ignite and catch fire. And I know personally I'd rather be hot and sweaty because I'm wearing wool in Georgia, not because I'm on fire. I'm wearing blue, representing the Union Army today. And one of the first things we get asked almost daily is, Ranger Wayne, this is Georgia, the Confederacy, why are you not wearing gray? To those folks I say, because you lost. And I kid. What it's for is for historical accuracy. It's for historical accuracy. Kidding aside, if you're not aware, we're currently commemorating our 150th anniversary of our Civil War, or those acts of northern aggression, if you will. And 150 years ago today, this fort was occupied by the Union Army. So that's why we're wearing the blue. And the wind's got it out. Got a good look at our 34-star flag. Our flag is unique because our stars are in the shape of a star. I could spend a whole half hour talking flags. We're not going to get into that right now. Feel free to come up and ask afterwards. But with the wind puffed out, please observe the flag, catch some pictures. It's beautiful. The weapon I'm going to fire for you all is a replica. We do not actually fire authentic weapons. We here in the Park Service are in the business of preservation, but it is made to the exact specs of the day. This is a replica of a Springfield, model 1863, the most abundant weapon in the Union Army. There were so many of these weapons on a battlefield that all rifles, by default, just became known as Springfields. The weapon of choice for the Confederate Army was the Enfield, model 1853. Enfield was a British company. They supplied 400,000 rifles to the Confederate Army. When the United States government accused the British government of meddling in their business, they immediately boxed up and shipped 400,000 rifles to the Union Army, so they could no longer be accused of helping one side or the other. I sure would have loved to have been a part of that family back then. Well, muskets prior to this were smooth bore, and what that means is the inside of the barrel was just as smooth as the outside of the barrel, and it fired a bullet that looked like, where's it at? This, a musket ball. 69 caliber, probably what you picture in your mind when somebody says musket ball. 69 caliber, designed to hurt you very much if it hits your body. Do not let one do that. But it's only accurate out to about 100 yards. And the reason for that is when the bullet's in the barrel and that gunpowder ignites, the ball literally bounces and rattles its way down the barrel and out. And where it hits as it's coming out is the direction it actually flies off in, not necessarily the direction I'm aiming in. And that explains why they would all line up shoulder to shoulder and fire in the same direction. Because the theory was one of them was bound to hit what they were all aiming at. That's not even a joke, that's serious. That was why they did it. Now, we do know there was some rifling in artillery as early as the 1500s. The German army had it. We do know that some muskets during the Revolution had rifling, but it wasn't fine and precise. It wasn't quite there yet. It wasn't until about the 1830s they rolled up their sleeves and said, let's figure this out. And what rifling is, they take that perfectly smooth barrel, they take anywhere from 3 to 7 grooves and put it the length of the barrel. And they put a twist on it all the way down. And initially they tried shooting that same musket ball. It wasn't quite working out for them. It took a French captain named Minier to come up with the Minier ball, or as we Americans love to pronounce things the way they're spelled, the mini ball. The most popular bullet of the war. Looks a little bit more like a modern bullet. 58 caliber, will still hurt you just as much as that other one. Accurate out to 600 yards. From about 100 out to 600. Which stories out there of officers being knocked off horses at 8 and 1,000. And the book says the bullet will travel 1,500. But at 1,500 yards, you might as well throw rocks at them. That's about all you're going to do. Now, Minier's design was actually smooth with only one groove at the bottom. The Americans added these 2 additional grooves, and they also added this little hollow cup at the bottom into the mold. Now what happens is as that gunpowder ignites, that explosion gets trapped in that bullet. It expands the bullet, allowing these grooves to catch the grooves in the barrel. Real nice, tight, snug, and out it comes spinning. Faster, straighter, longer distance. Again, increase that accuracy. And definitely an improved weapon, but yet the tactics were still behind. They were still lining up shoulder to shoulder and firing in the same direction. Only this time, most of them were hitting what they were all aiming at. And to fire this weapon, it takes 9 easy steps. Just 9. Let that sink in a little bit. Compared to that Revolutionary War smoothbore musket, where it took about 13 or 14 steps. And they would all stand out there, and you get that first command. Loaded 9 times, load. Weapon comes down, my hand comes back. Handle, cartridge. We all reach in and pull out the cartridge. We saw the bullet, now we've got the full package. Nothing but a piece of paper rolled up in a cylinder, about 60 to 65 grains of powder, maybe a little bit more grains if it's a bigger caliber weapon, but 65 was your standard. With another piece of paper rolled around that with the bullet. That cup is right here in the middle, the point of the bullet down here at the bottom, tied off with a string, crimped over. These came in packets of 10. The basic load for a soldier was 40 cartridges, four packs. This is also the first time that bullet and powder were introduced into the same cartridge. By the end of the war, with the advent of the carbine weapons that the cavalry was using, it became the brass cartridges that we know today. But this is where it started, paper. Now those 2 teeth I mentioned, got to take care of. I'm no officer, I'm a grunt, I've got them. Tear cartridge. And I ripped the paper open, exposing the powder. This is my show-off cartridge. I'm not actually firing this one, pretend with me. Charge cartridge. Pouring the powder in first, very important. We see that bullet flips up. It's pointed in the direction it's supposed to be, and into the barrel it goes. Draw rammer. Ram cartridge. And we push that cartridge all the way to the bottom of the barrel. Return rammer. In my opinion, that is the single most important command of all 9 commands. Because if I forget the rammer and I leave it in the barrel, I'm going to shoot it with the bullet. Then I can't put another bullet in the barrel. And I have to hope that one of these two guys no longer needs theirs, or I no longer need mine. So we put it back, we know it's there. And now I'm ready. Prime. On prime, we turn, raising our rifles. There are two positions on the hammer. First position, I cannot squeeze the trigger. The weapon does not go off half cocked. That is where that term comes from. I reach into this pouch right here and I pull out my percussion cap. Little piece of tin or copper. I'll have some up afterwards if you want to come up and inspect it. Little chemical in there, some mercury fulgate, forget which. But this is what's going to create the spark. Those cap guns we had growing up, maybe we're big kids and still have some, when these became obsolete as tools of war, they continued to sell them as cap guns, pop guns. The chemical I'm going to use to fire this weapon today is the exact same chemical in that $3 toy down at Walmart. I place it right there on that feed horn. There's a groove leading into the barrel. Now I'm ready. Ready. Aim. Fire. Come back. Arms. 9 easy steps. And they would practice this over and over and over again because on a battlefield, you don't have time to call out all the commands. And if you do, I'm probably not listening to them because somebody's trying to shoot me and I'm trying to shoot them back. But it was important that soldiers knew how to fire these. The standard of the day was to be able to shoot 3 rounds in 1 minute, compared to that smoothbore where it was 1 round in 1.5 minutes. So definitely improved technology. 3 rounds, 1 minute. My best time has been 54 seconds, but I do not have that added pressure of somebody shooting back at me. Time's on my side there. But I can meet that standard. For those wondering, I'm not actually going to fire real bullets, but it is live powder. For those of you that were chased out from this side of the fort, that was why we chased you. We take our safety seriously here. We don't shoot bullets for 2 reasons. It may discourage visitors from wanting to come back, knowing that we're firing bullets in the fort. And 2, the Park Service would prefer we not put more holes in the wall that haven't been here since the 1860s. But again, live powder, we do play it safe. One last safety note, I'm going to be wearing these non-historically accurate earplugs. They did not have earplugs then, a lot of hearing loss, but we do have earplugs today, and I prefer to keep what little hearing the VA and my wife claim I have. She's sitting right there, you can ask her. But when you see me raise the rifle to my shoulder, I'm getting ready to fire. Please cover your ears. If you got a little one, well, there's only one little one, and he's not so little. I guess he doesn't need help. But I beg of you, if you do have a hearing aid, a hearing device, please turn it down or take it out. We had a visitor about 2-3 weeks ago who either forgot or was just stubborn and did not. He was not happy the rest of his time here. He apparently had a very good hearing aid. So if you do have one, please heed my advice. You would get one command before you commenced firing. Load at will, load and fire. And on load and fire, that's when everybody loaded and fired. And you continue to fire until one of 3 things happened. You were told to cease fire. You ran out of bullets, or a bullet found you. Those were your only 3 options right then. Hopefully one of the first 2 things happened. If you did run out of bullets, there were probably plenty laying on the ground. You went ahead and picked some up. But with that, 3 rounds, 1 minute. Feel free to time me. All I can promise is I'm going to shoot 3 rounds. With that. On will and fire. 54.2 seconds. I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you. I am probably the one ranger you will hear say, I get very disappointed when we don't misfire. I love to misfire because I love showing how they can clear it. They had a tool. You put on the end of your ramrod there, a couple of teeth on it, put it down in there, get a couple twists till you feel it grip, you pull it out. Although in a battle, you probably just threw it down on the ground and grabbed the one that was laying on the ground and hope that one fired. But that they could clear it on the move. If this weapon failed to fire and I did not notice it, all I'm going to do is throw another round on top. And then it's going to misfire. And I'm going to throw another round on top. Next thing you know, I got 7, 8, 9 rounds in there. And my Irish luck runs out. And boom, one of them catches and I'm holding a stick of dynamite. And if I make it to the surgeon, he's probably not happy to see me. Battle of Gettysburg has absolutely nothing to do with Fort Pulaski, but this was a strictly military duel here. They had 1 or 2 rifles in Gettysburg. They recovered 34,000 rifles off the battlefield at Gettysburg. They discovered that about 24,000 of them had a cartridge in the barrel and had not been fired for one reason or another. Of those, 18,000 of them had more than 1 cartridge. They found 1 rifle with 23 cartridges in the barrel. How you do not notice that your rammer is getting longer the more you fire. About 23 cartridges. With that, that brings me to the end. Thank you all. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing this. If you have any questions, whether on my program or the fort in general, feel free to come up. Pictures, big ones and little ones, come on up. Very photogenic here. Share those pictures with us. We have a Facebook page, Twitter feed, Instagram. We all love logging in and looking at ourselves. And this is actually my last musket demonstration here at Fort Pulaski, folks. You are my last group. My services are being sent up to Valley Forge. That's home for me. And I thank you all. You've been a great group. There will be a 3 o'clock